Hello everybody, welcome back. It's been a while. I'm glad that you guys are back here for another video. I have, for various personal reasons, taken a bit of a break. I've been purposefully trying to slow down how much money I've been spending on clothes. And so because of that, I have not been consuming as much. There's not as much new content for me to really put out. Plus, I just wanted a little bit of a break. I've been focusing on some other stuff, stuff in my personal life, stuff on work. But today, we have a really important, to me, new purchase that I think you guys might enjoy. There's still a decent amount of stock of these, so I thought now was the perfect time to do a review, get some information out there for you guys so that you could get some good quality information, decide if you want to buy these. And yes, these are the famous Redwing Pecos boots. The Redwing Pecos boot is easily one of the most iconic boots Redwing makes, specifically behind their mock toes and the Iron Rangers, especially when you start to get into the Goodyear welted community, the footwear community, the boot community. These are one of the coolest and most popular boots that a lot of people talk about how much they like. Because they haven't been released in such a long time, these boots are not quite as popular as they used to be, but I do expect that this recent release is going to really shoot them back up there in popularity. I think you'll see them in a lot of outfit pics. I think you'll see a lot of people posting how they wear over time, and hopefully some more reviews like this one will be coming out as well. So here we can see a Redwing box, which is the regular Redwing logo on it, all around, pretty standard. I'll skip through this pretty quick, not too interesting. The only thing worth noting is the Pecos branding right here, and then the sizing. The important thing to note with this boot is that they are sized at an E width, but the E width fits very narrow. So a lot of people say treat them like a normal D width boot. I could not give you a super accurate size comparison between these boots and other Redwing boots for a couple reasons. First, I just don't own any Redwing boots besides these at this point right now. And secondarily, because I've had a really hard time sizing Redwing boots in the past. I bought a pair back in the day when I was used to wearing tighter shoes, bought a 10 triple E, way too small, 10.5 triple E, much better, but I just ended up getting rid of them because I didn't like the way they looked. This was in the 1905 mock toes, and I haven't bought any Redwings since. I've recently been looking, they seem to have re-released the Beckmans. I really like the look of those. I've been looking at those. I've thought about going to my local store, trying them on, maybe even trying on the blacksmiths. And I was actually going to look at the Beckmans online, which is when I noticed that these had been re-released. These are some of my favorite boots ever. Back in the day, I would say probably 4 or 5 years ago, I used to post on forums asking, are these ever going to re-release? I emailed Redwing, are you ever going to re-release these? I used to look at other similar roper boots all the time, but nothing scratched the itch for me the same way that these did. They've released them in a couple different colorways over time. I will show you guys the different colors. There's a black, there's a darker brown, then there's this hawthorn muleskinner, which is one of the most famous Redwing leathers that they have. And then there was a lighter color. I think the lighter color was a completely different leather name, a completely different leather coloration. Hello everyone, I was editing and I wanted to make a slight note. There are a couple different materials. There was a black rough out released, there was the Abilene 1118 rough out released, and then there was a darker brown that released as well. And another slight note on these is that the new release, the ones I purchased, are 11 inches tall, and the Pecos are traditionally 9 inches tall. That's something a lot of people liked about them. They might not like about this release. I forgot to mention it in the review, so it's right there for you. And back into the video. I found a pair of these Pecos back in the day, 2 or 3 years ago, at a thrift store for my wife, and they were in a size a little bit big for her, and we bought them for about $70. She wore them for about a year, decided they were finally too big. She just couldn't deal with the heel slip anymore, and we sold them. We're actually able to profit on them because the person at the thrift store, or it was a resale store, a vintage resale store, had them priced lower than what the market value was. So she got to wear them for a while, and we both got to make like 50 bucks off of them. It was a decent little deal. But now these have been re-released. I will put up the price here and I will show you guys how much they are costing. I'm forgetting. It's in the high 300s. And I honestly don't think it's a completely ridiculous price. These days you're looking at something like Tecovas, some of the nicer Ariat boots, and some other brands in that price range. And I think you're actually getting a lot of quality here in comparison to some of those other boots. One of my favorite things about these that some other people might not like in comparison to those other boot brands is that these are very traditionally made and they are very minimalist. What I mean by that is that they don't have foams in the sole. They don't have any squishiness really going on besides the heel pad, which I don't love, but that's just my personal taste. So now let's take a look at these. These are, I believe, about 10 or 11 inches tall. They have this slight kind of a slope here. And when it comes to Western details, they are very minimalist. And normally I actually like a lot of the detailing on Western boots, but for these specifically, I really like, because of the suede color because of the light color and the suede rough out material. Once again, I forget if they're rough out or suede, I'll put that right here. But because of those things, I really like specifically the more minimalist look for these. And I like the lower heel, which makes them easier for walking. And you can see here, they have a bit of a medium toe shape, I would say. I definitely think it's somewhat pointy, but it is not terrible. And if you guys are fans of my channel, you'll know I do have a really big issue with sizing boots a lot of the time, especially pull-on boots. So when I bought these, I was very nervous. Here's a little bit of a profile. You can see they don't really have a pointy toe profile. It's a bit rounded, but it's a very attractive shape. Let me try to get it a little bit closer. There's some variation in the texture on the rough out here. You know, Redwing is not perfect. You can see on this pair, for example, from here it looks a little bit of a closer grain, and then it's a little bit wilder, a little bit rougher of a material here. You can see it here as well. I'm really ultimately not super worried about that. You can see there's a scrape here, but it looked like there was a scrape. You can kind of brush it. The overall uniformness is, I think, the best word of this is not like perfect or the most amazing, but for the price, I think you're getting something pretty decent. And for me, a lot of this has to do with, like, these are a grail boot that, because they hadn't been released in so long, I was never going to risk paying a marked up resale price on them and risking them not fitting. Because they were just being released from Redwing, I knew I would be able to return them if they didn't fit. Redwing is, at least to me, very famous for having a very generous return policy. And so because of that, I was willing to risk the fit. Usually I measure a 10.5 triple E on the Brannick device. And so because of that, I decided to go up a half a size because, like I said, these are technically an E, let's just call them a D. So these are an 11E. They kind of fit a little bit more like an 11D according to a lot of people. So that seemed a bit risky to me. The issues with my foot is that I have a very, very tall foot, very high volume. And so I've actually owned a pair of Redwing Pecos, the nail shank Pecos, or they're called something like that. And those ones I had an issue with because I bought in a 10.5 triple E and they were great for my foot width, but I had a really, really big issue with them just crushing the top of my foot. With this pair, because I feel like this transition here, which is kind of the problem point for a lot of people with pull-on boots, it is still decently tight, but because these are a size up, I think that it's actually just tight enough that it keeps my heel locked into the back, but it is big enough and longer up here that it gives my foot some room. So these are not like a perfect fit by any means, but I have no toe squishing. I have a slight touching of my pinky toe to the outside right here. I don't foresee this being an issue. I regularly wear shoes that have more touching than this does, and I'm fine with it. Worst case scenario with something like this, bring it to a cobbler. They can stretch out this little pinky side a little bit. But I have found the fit on these to be great. My foot slides in no problem. I have had an issue with a lot of other boots as well, pull-on boots. I just can't get my foot into them. I've tried the John Lofgren engineer boots. It's not happening. I've tried the Attraction engineer boots. I almost would like to try those again because I bought them in a size too big, had to completely return them. You know, a lot of different cowboy boot brands, I just can't do it. I have a high volume foot. This pass-through line is very difficult. I've tried stretching them. It's just a consistent issue for me, which makes me very hesitant, which is why when Redwing released these, you know, with this return policy and everything, there was so little downside for me. I had to risk buying them. And I even technically, from a mental perspective, have still been in my don't buy anything phase, but I just couldn't go without these. They released my grails and I couldn't ignore it any longer. Let's do a little bit more of a detailed breakdown on these. I will move these over, we'll focus on the right boot, and we will see the individual actual details of these boots. Okay, so here we are. The Redwing Pecos boot. Let's look at some of the main things. We have the 11-inch tall shaft. We have what looks like between a 1 and a 1 1/4 inch heel height back here. A little bit of toe spring going right here. We have a medium rounded pointed shaped toe, I would say. Very light on Western detailing. We have our pole loops. These are thick, well-built pole loops. You can see the stitching in here, stitching in here. They're made out of the full thickness of leather, of the rest of this leather. And then we have a rolled top here. That's one thing. Some brands do cut, some brands do the extra piece, but this is the one piece folded over and rolled. I think these are lined. I'm pretty sure that these are lined. Here is what the inside of the boot looks like. You can see here, there's this other material. The reason I think this, you know, actually feeling the inside of this pole loop now, I'm not 100% sure. This seems to be a little bit of a filed down, like a nubuck. So that makes me think that this boot is a rough out and that this is just a little bit filed down on the inside. I believe this is a chrome tanned leather, and one of the ways you can tell that is, let me try to get this strap in here close. I don't know if you can see the blue core or not. I'll try to do a close-up little video of it, and maybe I'll cut that in here, of the blue core to this leather. That will keep these looking really light. If they scrape, the inside will be lighter. You know, that's really common. That's something Redwing likes to do with a lot of their oil tanned leathers as well. They do a little bit lighter of the core and from the chromium salts, and that allows the folding and the folding and the creasing to really develop a depth and a lot of coloring. But for these, what you're gonna get with this lighter suede rough out material is a lot of darkening actually. These are very, very well known for absorbing tons of indigo from the jeans you wear. If you like to wear any jeans that bleed raw denim, any type of high quality denim, it is probably gonna bleed indigo onto these. And they're very common for getting this shaft. It kind of breaks down, it gets slouchy, and it gets really, really full of indigo. And that's something that a lot of people really like when they break these in. Looking at some more individual details here, let's take a look at this sole. We have the traditional popular Redwing, the oil resistant rubber sole. This is supposed to be a bit of a non-slip sole. From the bottom, it looks even less textured than like a Vibram mini lug or something like that. It almost makes me think of the Vibram 700 sole, like from a traction bottom looking pattern perspective. From the side, it's probably about roughly as thick, but it is this one-piece unit sole that Redwing likes to use on a lot of their boots. You know, a lot of people might not like that. They might want a leather stacked heel. You can kind of see the options that you have if you wanted to send them to a cobbler, if that was a look you preferred more. I believe there's also someone who's dyed these boots a darker color, and that's something we're thinking about too, since they only release these in this one color, the hawthorn muleskinner leather. Looking at some more details, I believe this is a leather midsole / insole welt situation going on right here. This is a 270 degree welt. It might even be stitched down. I didn't look up any of the specs before making this. I apologize. And you can see it has the white stitching right here. I'm not sure if this is the same stitching that goes all the way through the sole or not. I feel very unprepared. You know, this is more of a vibes review, I suppose. Let's look at it straight on. Here you can see Redwing has their waxed stitching here, and because of that, there's a little bit of staining of the wax right around on that suede. That's something that won't be noticeable once these start breaking in and getting a little bit dirtier. It's not really something to worry about. You know, there's some slight quality, let's call them hiccups. A little bit of loose thread here, for example. You know, it's something that can just easily be cut or burned off. I will quickly show you this pair. You know, this has the same issue of this rougher texture. It's a lot rougher of a texture back here, and then it's a smoother texture up here. You know, that's something I noticed on both of these. Like I said, personally, these get so dirty and so broken in, it's not an issue that I'm personally worried about. You can see some more of the wax staining right here on this stitching, and you can see some more of it right here. Here are some photos of the inside. Here's the tag. A lot of other reviews of these boots. I'm assuming that the construction of these is roughly the same with earlier models. That's a quick overview of the Redwing Pecos. I hope that you liked it. I hope you enjoyed it. It's been a while since I made a video. Hopefully you enjoyed this quick overview. You know, if this is what you needed to tell you to go and buy them, I think these are a great choice. Definitely go and buy them. There are a lot of, these are a very versatile boot. They can go with a lot of different stuff. Nothing really too fancy, but everything casual is a great look. They have a bit of a wide shaft compared to some other boots, so you know, I don't think they would be the best with something like skinny jeans, but to each his own. If you have any other questions, please let me know. I will answer them in the comments for you. And until next time, have a great day. Bye-bye.